Good morning, friends. We're with you a little later today due to technical issues, but with joy, I say, this is today's Patsy will we'll be chatting to our friend Jenny Smith, a lady who we know has had an interesting life. Patsy.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, the thing is, Jenny, we know you've had an interesting life, which is makes it, I think, quite suitable to ask you my first question, which is, um, I'd like you to think of any public figures that you wish you could have challenged and what you would have said to them had you had that opportunity, because I know that you did have some very challenging interviews. I've lost your face, that's the only thing.
Yeah, I can't somehow or other get my thing higher up.
It's too high. It needs to be lower.
Well, I can only see the top of my head.
Yes, yes. So if you tilt the screen, the top towards you, yeah,
Oh,
that,
yes, that's better.
that's about right.
That looks better. Yes, it does.
Yeah, so any public figures that you would have liked to have interviewed and what you'd have said to them.
Um, there were so many, weren't there, going through the years? Um, I did challenge some. I know that.
Oh, yeah.
You're dealing with someone that's trying to forget the past, not join the past. Yes, don't know. I mean, we had so many MPs come in suddenly in
Hmm.
the last few years, and they all know that they can do whatever they like, and they don't, because they suddenly come across all these blockages that take place. Um, I actually feel I fell into politics by mistake. I didn't, I was working with poverty. I was working with what happened in people's lives. I didn't mean to be a politician. But somehow or other, things started to go wrong and in their lives. And I waged in, like I did in Bath, to try to sort things out and
Hmm.
give power back to ordinary residents. And I know I accept the establishment doing it. But
Yeah.
I don't like power. I never have liked power because I don't think power has a brain to think about everybody, only about individuals. I can't.
What?
I,
It's all right, Jenny. I mean, did you feel that there were people who were in power while you were working in the social work field? Did you feel there were people who did actually abuse the power that they had?
oh yes, I think when they closed all the hospitals and came down to one and put people out into the community in unstructured homes,
Mm,
they did during my time.
yeah.
That was terrible. And I
Mm,
was trying to save some of them to get a decent roof over their head and make sure it was secure because none of the contracts seemed to be actually secure.
mm.
People could close elderly people's home quite fast and suddenly. And I felt that I was the amateur trying to do this because I didn't understand all the laws. I just understand the principles. Mm, yeah, I fought hard, to keep the hospital out. Oh, where is it? Yeah. You see, I have got dementia, and I am going.
Oh, don't you worry, you're doing okay. And you know, well, how old? May I ask how old you are now?
86.
I don't think that's bad, you know. I think you can get to 86 without any dementia. You're doing bless you well. Um,
I go shopping. I don't forget what I'm going to go and get. Um, but I'm trying to think. Yeah, Bristol. I mean, in the old days, Bristol had terrific power,
yeah.
and many of the places like Somerset felt that it undermined their power. But also, Somerset seemed to live in the dark ages and didn't seem to know what democracy was at some times, which was sad because they'd had democracy, they were going to bring in a lot more people into the power syndrome, which would balance things. You'd have a lot more opinions coming in. But I think it's better now. I hope so.
Hmm. It's a funny thing, though. I was saying a bit while we were waiting for you earlier on. I heard something. I can't remember where I heard it, whether it was on the radio or even one of you guys. The fact that in London, everything. Well, we know it vaguely speaking that in London things seem to happen more quickly than in the rest of the country. But it's actually very extreme. I mean, things literally do happen slightly sooner in London than they do here, you know, because of the time zones. But also people are seem to go with that. They're much more precise in actually turning up, for example, spot on time. Rather than I would have said in Bristol, we tend to drift more within a range of about 5 to 10 minutes of any specified time. There seems to be that and that, I think, increases as you get into Somerset. But is that your impression as well, or is it just me?
What's the other thing? I think there are people among us, I'm not going to name names, who want power within their families and with their own structure.
Hmm.
One of the reasons I came into politics was that I'd accidentally got into the edge of Southmead, into Hembury,
Hmm.
and I wasn't planning that. I went out soaking wet, drowned on my motorbike, and walked into this meeting and did a little talk, and suddenly found I'd become the councillor for Hembury. At least I was going into a be selected, and it wasn't planned at all.
Hmm.
But when Henbury eventually had to come down from 3 councillors to 2, I lost the vote by 1 vote.
Hmm.
And what was interesting was there was a panic going on. I wasn't panicked, but somebody had worked out that I was the county council's gypsy and traveller policy document. And
Hmm.
that had to stay there because they had so many gypsies and travellers that needed to have security in their lives,
Hmm.
trying to come into Bristol. And healthcare and all sorts of things that other people hadn't realised. They're human beings. They might not have a roof over their head, but they're still human beings, good,
Hmm.
bad, and indifferent, just like the rest of us.
Yes.
So it was really funny. And I don't know whether any of you remember the McLarens
The
in North Bristol
right.
at the Gloucester Road and in various areas like that. And the McLarens were councillors. And they sort of either took me under their wing or bullied me to become a councillor. You take your choice. And it was all about keeping policies that were humane and not just about money all the time.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I felt I was an amateur. I still feel I'm an amateur. I go and sit into the meetings, in the council meetings and listen to them. And what goes around comes around. And it's like we've never solved some of the things, and we ought to solve some of the things.
Mm.
Yeah, I unravel the mess. And let people step forward and put opinions or ideas forward and take them seriously and not take the ego out of councillors. Because many councillors like to be up there talking, even if it's junk.
Are there, if you had the resources and you could go back with these resources and do anything differently, are there things you would have done differently at that point?
I would have kept some of the hospitals open.
Yes.
You know, I mean, but people who don't live in Kingswood but live in eastern places, having to go all the way into Kingswood to get to a hospital.
Mm.
And in South Bristol, people like me have to work my way across to get to a hospital.
Mm.
And so do the people in some of the poorer areas.
Yeah. Yeah. So you would have put more resources into the
Put more
hospital.
resources in people's back gardens almost, so
Yes.
that they got there.
Mm.
Because some people are quite able to get around and geographically know where things are. Other people don't.
Mm. Mm.
They live in a little cocoon and only come out when things go wrong.
Yeah.
And then they're floundering, which is a shame.
Mm. Could I ask you, I was wondering, to what extent did you find, I mean, I don't know how long you've been a Quaker, but if you were being a Quaker at the time you were working, to what extent was it helpful? Were you able to, did your Quaker faith sort of uphold you and give you more courage?
It was helpful. It gave me strength. It also gave me the strength to realize that if I didn't know the answers, you have a think tank among you.
Yes.
Expertise. And I used to go off and get help and say, could you help with this case, please? And I didn't have to do it with everything because as time went on, I sort of worked out how all the systems worked. But at the same time, it was very, very useful. You're clever people. And you can't be bamboozled into doing things you don't think wrong.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, it's really strange. I came to Quakers when I came back to the UK in Epsom and Ewell.
Mm.
And I'd been in Germany. I'd listened to the German women talking about what it was like during the war there. And I've talked to people from Belgium and other countries in Europe. And I came back to the UK in the Epsom and Ewell. I didn't realise that it was full of people from the House of Commons. That didn't help. Well, it did, because they were always keeping me up to date.
Right.
Yeah, but quite interesting, right? You do wonder, do you think Maker pushes the furniture around sometimes around you to make absolutely sure you learn something? Because sometimes I used to have a case and I don't know anything about this. I don't even know where to start. And then the answer would arrive. And I
Yeah.
was thinking, this is sort of a miracle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really strange life. Is it just me? And is that being a Quaker? Is it somehow or other we can centre down to know what we need to know, put a request in, however we do that, I don't know, and get the answer come back?
Mm.
It's helpful not just to you, but to the rest of the world. I'm not sure about us. I think that we are strange people. I know I try to keep away from too much with other people because it frightens them sometimes. We
Mm,
are, we are also about knowing where power is.
mm, mm.
But to control power, we have to control ourselves.
Yeah. And there are so many ways in which being a Quaker does help you
Yeah,
do that. And it's only since I've been a Quaker that I've actually taken seriously what friends have been telling me to do for years, which is don't do it today, Patsy. Think about it and do it tomorrow. And you know, this slowing down and spending more time to think, gaining more peace really in my mind. I then seem to be shown clearer answers than diving in, which is what I'm afraid is I have done a lot in my life. But what do you think was the hardest thing you've ever had to do in your I don't like to call it your career exactly because you had several careers, but looking back, what things were hardest to do?
oh, it was the prejudice, the
It was
racial prejudice,
right.
not just gypsies and travellers, but black and white people, and
Mm,
people who are not given the gifts in the brain that we had, some of us,
mm,
treating them like they were idiots. And I got involved as a county councillor in the closure of various homes. The only thing worried me was, okay, you closed the home, wasn't good. They weren't really achieving anything and helping people to get the next steps of their lives together.
mm,
But you also took away friendship groups and structures and
mm,
people that were well trained to look after them.
mm,
So it's how you balance these things.
mm.
We have a lot less secure homes or places for people to go to when they're in stress or having a really bad time.
Mm,
That's
mm.
sad because we cannot predict how many and how much they need.
So that a general lack of security.
For people in need
Mm,
and to put them back on their feet so they can go back into the world and live a normal life.
yeah.
You don't know what life will throw at you.
Well, I was wondering whether I just had the five things I wanted to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
So I was hoping that what I could do then will be to ask everybody else here whether they've got questions they would like to ask you because you had such an interesting life. Um, could I open? How do I put it? Can I open it to the house? If anyone else has got things that they would like. Take advantage of this situation, please, and ask Jenny.
I know that you and I, Jenny, have been with the Labour Party for yonks. What do you see the differences between the party of people like Tony um, and the difference between his type of Labour Party and the Labour Party of today?
I don't see so many people involved. I hope there are,
Mm,
but they don't. The strength is for you not to just have a leader, but to have a leader that's surrounded by people with knowledge, a feedback, and not just knowledge academically, knowledge of what's actually happening to people in
mm,
society.
mm,
And to have that, I had that gift because of all my work at
mm,
shelter. I could see what was going wrong and what needed to change.
mm,
And when you put people on a pedestal, sometimes they lose the agenda they're there for. And
mm,
to watch that.
mm,
I mean, I was with Tony Benn in the flats in South Bristol. And I remember him talking through a door to a woman who was crying. And she hadn't heard from her son for about 3 years, and he was abroad.
Mm.
And he got from her an address and wrote to the son, and the son started writing to his mum every month, so that she felt she had a family and she wasn't just in a big block of flats in a very poor area of the city. Things like that matter.
I so enjoyed all your previous talks. They were amazing. You went to enormous lengths to support and care for people. And as you said, working to give them back power. And you were like a Joan of Arc in my eyes on a motorbike.
Yes.
So, yes, thank you for all that you shared previously. And,
I think today politics has become more and more centralized. There is less and less local politics, local groups who are allowed to make their own agenda. A lot of stuff now is coming down from central, that kind of, you shall do this, you can't decide this or that. Everything has to be decided by the central power in Westminster rather than local groups.
Yeah.
Decisions still go on in places like Bristol City Council that affect our lives because they can refuse to do certain things. I would like to know that the younger generation are being made aware of politics and how to listen, but not being influenced until you see the whole picture. My mother was a councillor in the Forest of Dean, used to turn up with her bike and put it down outside the meetings. And my father was also in politics, but he was a union chair, UPW Newbury.
Right.
So I did have politics in the background. And my brother Roger, till he died of the side effects of polio at 64, he was political as well. Well, he said one day he was sitting in a Labour Party meeting and they couldn't find someone to be a councillor. And he thought, oh God, Jenny I suppose I've got to be. And he put his hat in the ring because they couldn't find anyone else. It's about holding the structure together but then challenging yourself whether you're the sort of person that should actually go into those fields. There's nobody writes real books on it, do they? About the consciences that people have. But I am getting old and tired. I go out shopping now. I go into Bristol and get things. And I live with a husband that is coughing himself to death because he smokes. And we've got a garden full of birds that I feed. Although we have actually stopped the pigeons getting under the panels on the roof, so that they are more effective now. We've had a spring clean, and we've got little spikes around the edge to stop them sheltering underneath and pooing all the time.
Some more.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jenny. I'm sorry we had so much trouble getting you on board to start off with, but
Look, it's my computer, isn't it? I'm going to have to get the children to check it, see what was wrong.
or maybe nowadays it's the grandchildren. Grandchildren
Could
are.
be. Mhm.
I know my granddaughter is better than my daughter, I mean, quite a lot.
Well, my son in London, he is a teacher in Balham,
Right.
and I've heard that people are now getting their children to that school because of him.
Mm.
And I hope that some of the principles I tried to lay down are there with him. I think they are.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, he's got one daughter, and she is bilingual, and her mother is an interpreter for the BBC and speaks about 8 or 9 languages.
Wow.
Yes. So we are a very strange family.
And you are a wonderful matriarch.
Yeah.
I don't know about wonderful.
No, it's a privilege to have you, Jenny. Sincerely, thank you.
Yeah.
It really is.
But I do think I'm on my way out, and I keep wondering when the Grim Reaper is going to walk in the door. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Can't run away from it.
Exciting though.
I'm sure you will discuss things with him.
Will be, did I do that right? Was that a mess? Are you really off with me?
Right.
I'm
Well,
sure, I'm sure you get to review and see everything fitted into a perfect picture.
Hmm. Yeah, so I think it's an exciting
world. Are you worried about the world, all of you, at the moment? I think we could be heading for another world war. I think we're stupid enough to have one.
Hmm.
Things are not good.
it's what the spirit wills, I think.
No, it isn't. It's what people mess up.
Is what we create.
We've got to learn to love each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, think about it. No matter what creed they are, no matter what language they have, no matter what background they come from, they are all holding up a little bit of the sky.
Yeah.
And with that bit of wisdom, friends, we come to the end of another meeting. It has been a pleasure.
It really has, Jen. Thank you.
And with that, Patsy is going to tell us what's happening next week.
David is going to be talking to us next week. David, do you want to quickly?
Well, just the government recently ran an inquiry on how to scale up community energy as part of their commitments to get us to net zero. And I put in a response, and I've been working on a project that I've talked about in other talks before. So I thought it was a good prompt to do a bit of an update on community energy. And the government inquiry was about scaling up community energy. And lots of people are thinking about that at the moment as a way of tackling climate change. So there you go, Ray. Is that a good enough answer?
Thank you, David. And
look forward to seeing
good afternoon, folks.
Thank you, Jenny.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jenny. Thank you. Okay.
We met at the beginning, and I will try and get this sorted out. And also, to my left is the biggest pile of rubbish paper I've ever seen. I'm going to have to find time to be up here and sort this room out.
Okay. You get them on the job. That's the thing. Okay. All right. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Stay safe.